Hello, 3-5 scholars, and welcome to another art meeting or virtual art meeting with me, your teacher, Mr. Farrar. So today we're gonna discuss another element of art. We talked about line for the last couple of weeks, so now we're gonna move into shape, which is the next step from line because if you were watching some of the videos that I made last week, we learned that line basically creates shapes. So first thing I just want to talk about is what is shape. So we generally know what shapes are, and I'm gonna write shape really big on my paper. We know what our shapes are. We know that we can have like geometric shapes, which are basically man-made. They're perfectly straight. They have perfect symmetry a lot of the time. So these would be our triangles, our squares, our octagons, our hexagons, our ovals, our circles. All the shapes that you would generally need a ruler to make count as geometric shapes. And so I'll write that on the board as well. Yeah, I don't know if you could even see shape, but geometric shapes, and I think that it's backwards because I'm recording it from front facing. So maybe I won't write it, but you will see in the videos that I'll be posting that geometric shape is one type of shape that you generally use or see as the perfect shapes. And then we also have free-form shapes or organic shapes, which are the shapes that we don't need a ruler to create, or we don't need a measuring device to create. These are the shapes like flowers, like maybe hearts could count as one, like the cloud shapes, the shapes of animals, those count as organic shapes. They don't have a specific measurement to them. They're just kind of like how you draw the shape. So when I'm drawing a shape, the definition of shape is an area clearly set apart, and that would be by usage of color, by lines, or by space. So what that means is this. So if I was to draw a triangle, there are several ways I could do that. I could choose to depict or show a triangle just by drawing several points on my paper and letting your eye depict where the shape is by the space that defines it. Or I could use line, which is the predominant way of making shapes, and I could allow those lines to connect with each other and interact with each other to create a triangle. Or I could also use color or shading to create the idea of a triangle. All of these have the same shape, right? But there are different methods that we use to get the same shape over and over again. So that's the whole idea of shape. Line is the first basic way that we, basic element that we use in art, but then shape is the second, because lines tend to create shapes when they connect with one another or overcross with one another or just come back and connect with itself. So if I was to draw a circle, I'd start at one point, come back and connect with myself, and that would give me a circle. And so generally these are the types of shapes that we think about, like when we're making a shape, we think about using lines to make shapes. So when I'm drawing something, it's very important that I am able to look at that thing and see the shapes that are there to be able to draw it. So that's a very important part of drawing, is understanding the shapes that we're looking at as we draw. So we did an activity where we did a sketch of our hand, a contour a drawing of our hand that's only using lines, a drawing that only uses lines to depict an object or to show an object. But we also had to understand the shape of our hand. So we had to understand that each of our fingers had its own specific shape. And then the palm of our hand had its own shape. So we could basically do that by breaking down the shapes of the simple shapes that are in our hand to get the overall feel. So if I was to draw a hand using basic geometric shapes, I might get something like this, where I have a square for the palm, and I could get something like ovals for the fingers. And that's our basic shape. What artists do is they look at the basic shape of something so that they can create a more complex or a more advanced shape after they're able to see what's the simpler shapes that are there. So after I'm able to see the simpler shapes that are there, I can then go back in and notice the smaller changes that's happening when it comes to the hand. I can also notice the differences in length of the fingers, and I can also notice the roundness, the natural roundness of the hand as well. Okay, so this is our simple shapes. This is our more advanced shapes that are happening there in the hand. So when we think about shape, it's really, really important that we learn how to look at things a little bit abstractly, which is a long word that just means outside of the box, or to look at something as less than what it is. So if I was looking at my hand more abstractly, I'm looking at it in a more simplistic or simple way to be able to draw my hand. So I'm not looking at every single detail. I'm looking at the overall idea or shapes that are there, the basic overall shapes that are there, so that when I can do that, then I can begin to make the little changes that I need to make it into a more complex shape, if that makes sense, and I hope it does. But I'll be including videos so you guys will be able to see how artists break down shapes. So there'll be one where they'll show a painting, and then they'll take away the paint and you'll see the pencil lines, and then they'll be able to identify just the simple shapes that are there. So let's say I was drawing a basket, or let's say I'm drawing a arrangement of fruit. So we generally know that fruit is what? Round. So we could use circles probably for apples or oranges. They have stems and leaves. But the idea of an apple or orange is not too far away, because the simple shape is a circle. We also, excuse me, we could do like a banana. We know that shape is something like an elliptical, which is a half circle. So if I was to come up here and draw a simple shape for a banana, it looks something like a crescent moon, or a half moon. So then we have more complex shapes like cars. But even with the car, if you were to draw a car, you know that it has wheels, which are circular. You know that it kind of has a boxy or square shape to it. Right? And then you also know that it has a front end that's kind of boxy, and a back end that's kind of boxy, and windows that are kind of boxy. All right? So that's not the best car, but it is a car. Now, to be able to draw a more realistic car, we would really have to pay attention to the very, very small and detailed shapes that are there, because not all shapes are these basic types of shapes. A shape is literally a area set apart. So any area that's set apart by line, by space, or by shading or color, it counts as a shape. So if I got up here and did this, that's a very detailed shape. And it's not a simple shape. And it's also not a geometric shape. It's a freeform shape. It has its own curvature, it has its own straights, and it has its own measurements. So we see a lot of complex shapes in real life. So if you were looking at a key, like where you crank up a car or maybe open a door, that's a more complex shape. It has its specific shape, it has its specific measurements, but it's a more complex shape than just a simple circle, square, or triangle. So as we move forward, I'm gonna give you some activities that focus on looking at an object and capturing it by looking at its shape, its overall shape. And I'll also be posting another video on how to, and it's very similar to when we did our contour drawing, but it's how to capture an object shape. Because sometimes it can be easier to capture an object shape using shading instead of trying to do a line. So using shading first, if I was to draw a bottle, like a Coke bottle, I know it has a very, very short cap on the top, like that. I know it comes down and gets wide. And it's really long. All right, so see what I did there? And then now I can come back with my pencil or with my marker, and then I can begin to mold that shape, right? And there goes my bottle. Right there. Okay, and it's not the perfect water bottle, but it is giving you that curvature and that shape of the bottle. Maybe let me see if I can bring it a little bit closer. The shape of the bottle here. So it's many ways to capture the shape of an object. I'm also gonna need for you guys to watch the videos that I'm including, or the videos that I'm including for this week, so we can get a better understanding of what the element of shape is, how we can apply it to art, how it is connected to lines, and how it can move our art to the next level if we use the element of shape correctly. So that's all I have for today, and I'll hope to see you next week, and we'll continue with the art. You also can send me your artwork by email, like I've been saying. You can send the art to your teacher, and they can forward it to me as well. So I look forward to seeing your art in further weeks, and I look forward to seeing what you are going to do with the links that I'm going to put in for this week. So I'll see you next week.